There's no portion for anyone but family. What? Oh? Didn't you hear me? You're not her real mother, yet you brazenly sit in the mother of the bride's seat. We can't possibly serve food to such a shameless stranger. Everyone was stunned into silence by Emily's sudden outburst. Just so you know, I don't consider you my mother. It was a huge inconvenience for me, your daughter, when you remarried because of your own reasons. I never wanted you at my wedding in the first place. Emily, is that all you wanted to say? What? Dad, what's wrong? Ignoring Emily's anxious look, John turned to me and said, "Let's go." After John suggested we leave, I too stood up from my seat. Yes. And so, my husband and I quietly left the venue, leaving the rest to that reliable person. After that, Emily, who had berated me at the wedding, would face her consequences. I'm Linda, a 55-year-old high school teacher. I was focused on my career and remained single until I was 45, but then I got married 10 years ago. My husband is a fellow high school teacher of the same age, named John Smith. John and I were colleagues at the same high school when we were new teachers. He transferred to another school after 2 years and married a woman he met through an acquaintance. However, they divorced due to his ex-wife's infidelity. At that time, John had an 11-year-old daughter, whom he decided to raise on his own. It seemed difficult for him to balance work and parenting. During this time, as a friend, I got in touch with John. His daughter, Emily, was very sweet and well-behaved then. As I spent time with John and Emily, I gradually became close to this father-daughter duo. 2 years later, John proposed to me, and we got married. I legally adopted Emily, John's daughter, and the three of us began living together. For my first marriage, I suddenly became a mother to a 13-year-old girl. For Emily's sake, I decided not to have my own children and consulted with John about it. We were planning to build a happy family, but Emily's behavior towards me started to change. She used to be kind and obedient, but suddenly became rebellious. For example, when I was hanging laundry, she'd complain, "Hey, don't mix your stuff with mine." Despite this, I thought, she's just going through a sensitive phase, and didn't respond harshly. Oops. Sorry about that. I'll be more careful from tomorrow. Well, it's understandable for a girl to have difficulty accepting her father's new wife. Over these 2 years, things have changed from just meeting occasionally. I kept reminding myself of this and tried to bond with Emily as soon as possible. My biggest concern was John's ex-wife, Karen, who lived nearby. Karen frequently met Emily, despite John not being very approving of it since he divorced her due to infidelity. Yet, Emily wanted to see her real mother, Karen, and it was inevitable. Since she's her real mother, it's probably unavoidable. So, John couldn't really refuse Emily's requests. Even if parents divorce for their own reasons, a child still misses their real mother. Considering this, I didn't oppose Emily meeting Karen. But this meant I couldn't close the gap between Emily and me. Moreover, Emily often used her father's remarriage as an excuse for her behavior. When parents divorce or remarry, it's a huge inconvenience for the kids. Since I'm the victim of being tossed around by my parents' decisions, the least you can do is treat me well as your daughter. Emily said this as she demanded allowance from John and treated me like a servant. If I tried to address it, she'd snap back, "You have no right to act all high and mighty. If you defy me, I'll tell Dad and have you thrown out." I wanted to discuss this with John, but since we both worked as teachers, Emily was usually with us on evenings and weekends. I tried to bring it up through text messages or messaging apps, but Emily once found out. "That's awful. Whispering behind my back is the worst," she exclaimed. Since then, she meticulously checks John's phone. In this way, our family of 3 continued our strained living situation. Emily went to college, but mostly played around for 4 years. She didn't get a job after graduating and just loafed about. With few friends, she mostly hung out with Karen, it seems. "Hey Emily, if you're not going to find a job, why not at least try part-time work?" I said this out of concern for her future, but Emily didn't like that idea. "Stop nagging. You and Dad both work as teachers, so we're financially comfortable. Why do I need to work?" "No, that's not it. I thought it would be good for your future if you worked." "That's none of your business. If worst comes to worst, I'll just get married and become a stay-at-home wife." Emily had such unrealistic expectations. Nowadays, it's not easy to find someone who wants a partner who aims to be a stay-at-home spouse right from the start. But her response to me was always, "You don't understand because you've never been a stay-at-home wife." In Emily's mind, being a stay-at-home wife meant just not working and staying at home. She always ran away whenever I tried to teach her housework. Whenever things got tough, she'd escape to Karen's place. I regretted not opposing her meetings with her biological mother. But I realized this wasn't helping Emily. So, I decided to seek advice from a trusted friend. An old high school friend named Susan Johnson. Susan, who's good at caring for others and skilled in communication, runs a bar. She attended my wedding and remembered Emily. When I shared my concerns about Emily's inability to become independent, Susan listened empathetically. "Ah, I see. Back then, Emily was just graduating from elementary school and seemed like a quiet, nice girl. Living together really brings out different challenges, huh?" I felt relieved to finally share my worries with someone. "Thank you. Just talking about it has made me feel much better." "No problem. I couldn't offer much advice, but come and talk to me anytime. I'll always be here." Truly, friends are invaluable. Feeling better, I decided to try talking to Emily again. But when I got home, Emily was unexpectedly getting ready to go out. "Oh, you're back? I'm heading out now." "Right now?" It wasn't urgent, so I thought we could talk later. But then, Emily shared something surprising. "Actually, Mom's getting remarried. The guy is 10 years younger than her and super handsome. I'm excited to meet him. She said she's going to introduce him to me, so I'm going to see him now." Karen's getting remarried. I was surprised, but if my mother Karen remarried, I was hoping that Emily wouldn't visit her so often anymore. But even after Karen got remarried, Emily's visits didn't decrease. Every Saturday night, she'd say, "I'm going to Mom's," and leave. I was worried Emily might be intruding on Karen's new marriage. Maybe it would be better if Emily found someone and got married soon, I suddenly thought. I wanted to teach her more about household chores. Just then, Emily came home in a great mood. A young man, a bit older than Emily, was with her. "I'm home." "Oh, let me introduce him. This is my fiancé, Michael," she beamed. "I'm Michael Smith. Pleased to meet you." "Fiancé?" I was taken aback by the sudden news. Now that I thought about it, Emily had been in a good mood lately and wasn't as rebellious. Had she found a boyfriend without me knowing? "Surprised, huh? Michael's an elite salesman at the parent company of where Mom's husband works. I was jealous of Mom's happiness and said, I wish I had someone too, and she introduced me to him." "Oh, is that so? That's great." Michael seemed very serious. I was a bit worried whether he could handle a daughter like Emily who couldn't do much. But my worries were short-lived. Emily's wedding plans were progressing smoothly. However, there was one problem. Karen wanted to attend the wedding. Of course, as Emily's biological mother, she'd want to see her daughter's big day. But having my ex-wife there while John and I would be attending as Emily's parents might cause a stir among the relatives. And it could be awkward for Michael's family. I was at my wits' end about how to have Emily's wedding without any issues and went to consult Susan. I wonder if I was wrong to allow Emily to see her mother all this time? Is it really okay to invite her to the wedding? As I asked this, Susan looked serious and began to speak. And that's when she told me an unbelievable truth. No way. I thought it couldn't be, but that was definitely Emily. And the man with her, in his mid-30s. I was taken aback by Susan, the bar owner's eyewitness account. And then I realized that Karen wanting to attend the wedding wasn't just to see Emily in her bridal glory. "Leave it to me, I've got a plan," Susan said, seemingly having a strategy in mind. My mind was in a panic, but I decided to leave everything to Susan. And then, on the day of the wedding. The wedding, attended only by close relatives, was held in a restaurant style. But when I tried to take my seat, I noticed something was off. "Huh? There's no meal at my seat." "Really? Maybe there was a mix-up with the staff?" "I'll go check." He returned, saying that the bride had requested no meal be served at my seat. Why would she? I felt a shiver run down my spine. John looked frustrated and was about to go to the bride's dressing room, but it was almost time to start, so I hurriedly stopped him. It's okay, John. I'm not in the mood to eat anyway. I'll ask her about it after the ceremony. John sat down with a bitter look, despite my reassurance. What is Emily thinking? He muttered. As the lights dimmed and the bride and groom entered, Emily passed by us and John whispered to her. Why isn't there a meal for Linda? Oh, John. It's really fine. I whispered back, but Emily loudly said for everyone to hear. There's no meal for those who aren't family. What? Huh? Didn't you hear? You're not her real mother, yet you sit here so boldly in the mother of the bride's seat. It's outrageous to serve a meal to such an outsider. The room fell silent at Emily's sudden harsh words. Just so you know, I don't think of you as the one who raised me. Your remarriage for your own convenience was a huge inconvenience to me as your daughter. That's why I didn't want you at my wedding in the first place. After saying her piece, Emily walked away from us. Then John stood up. Is that all you have to say, Emily? What? Dad, what's wrong? Ignoring Emily's anxious look, John turned to me and said, Let's go. I stood up too. Okay. And so, John and I left the venue without another word. Wait! Dad, where are you going? Forget her, come back! Emily's cries echoed behind us, but John and I left without a word, leaving the rest to Susan waiting backstage. When we got home, Susan called us via video. Hello. Are you home? I'm about to head in, watch this. Please, but how did you get permission from the restaurant? I know the owner, so asking for this much was no problem. Susan said this as she stood near the entrance of the venue. Through the video call, I could hear the grooms yelling from behind the door. Emily! How could you do this to a parent who raised you? But, it's my wedding, and I didn't want a woman who's not my real mother attending as my mom. I have a real mom, after all. Emily's feeble voice was also heard. It seems she really wanted her biological mother, Karen, to be at the mother's seat. She intended to exclude only me, but she probably didn't expect John to leave as well. That's why your real mother is also here, right? But making her sit in the back like that is just awful. Amidst this argument, Susan burst in through the door. All right, enough with the arguing. Everyone was stunned by Susan's sudden entrance. Emily looked at Susan, as if to say, Who are you? Hey, what are you doing? Don't just barge in like that. Oh, sorry about that. I've got permission from the venue. I'm Linda's friend and the owner of Susan's bar. Susan's bar. Seems like you recognize the name of the bar written on the signboard? It's right in front of the hotel you frequent. Hotel. Michael, the groom, looked at Emily with a puzzled expression, and Emily's face turned pale as she averted her eyes. Then, Susan pulled out a tablet from her bag and turned the screen towards the bride and groom. On it was a video of a man and woman, arms linked, entering a hotel. This is Emily and that man. Yes. The husband of Emily's mother. I happened to see them when I stepped out of my bar. Since then, almost every Saturday at this time, the two of them have been entering this hotel, right up until last night. No! Stop it! Emily screamed in desperation, but at that moment, Karen, who was sitting in the back, strode forward towards Emily. So, it was true. I thought it was suspicious when you introduced him to me. I introduced the best man I knew to you. What kind of person are you? Karen glared at Emily with a look that was no longer a mother's face, but filled with the resentment of a woman whose man was taken. I also, until I heard from Susan, thought Emily's frequent outings were either dates with Michael or visits to Karen. I never imagined she would be involved with her mother's new husband. Emily, glared at by Karen, defiantly retorted. Well, I was jealous that Mom married such a handsome man. And as soon as she remarried, she stopped paying much attention to me. I was just so upset. That's why I introduced someone like Michael to you. You said you wanted to marry soon and become a housewife, and he's well off enough. What more do you want? That's why I'm planning to behave properly after the marriage. But Mom's husband is more handsome, so I thought it wouldn't hurt to, before the wedding. Seeing each other every week, and you call that a little? This was indeed a clash of raw emotions between women. Like daughter, like mother. From what I could see on the screen, the relatives present were all taken aback. However, Michael, who was listening nearby, seemed to have reached his limit. Enough is enough. So, Emily, you just wanted to get married and chose me for that? If that's your attitude towards marriage, then I'm out. Ah, just as I feared. Nowadays, even elementary school kids wouldn't say they just want to be brides. In this era, marriages won't work unless the partners truly love and support each other. Yet, Emily still seemed not to understand, looking at Michael with pleading eyes. But I thought I'd be happy with you, Michael. Why would you say something so cruel? That's just your selfish perspective, Emily. Sure, I want to make the woman I love happy. But you're just relying on my income, thinking about having an easy life. I don't like a cunning woman who chooses a marriage partner for such reasons. Michael stated this clearly and firmly. Even Emily had no comeback to that. Besides, I can't forgive the fact that you cheated right before the wedding. Emily, prepare yourself. I'll be demanding a fair compensation for this betrayal. What? No, please, Michael, forgive me. Emily's tearful plea for forgiveness was in vain. The relatives around were saying, this marriage is definitely off now. Even Michael's parents seemed to agree with this decision. Emily, overwhelmed with despair, hung her head and began to cry. No! I thought I was finally going to get married. What am I supposed to do now? No matter how much Emily cried or screamed, no one would sympathize. Even her biological mother, Karen, was still looking at her with eyes full of resentment. I'm done with you. You're no longer a daughter to me, nor I am mother to you. Don't involve me in your life anymore. Oh, that reminds me, I have something to tell you too, Karen. Susan suddenly said, as if she just remembered. What? What are you talking about all of a sudden? I thought I had seen your husband somewhere before. He's been to my bar several times, each time with a different woman. What? Karen's face froze. Susan, even in the midst of conversation, made sure to show the faces of those she spoke about on the video. Your husband, Daniel Roberts, right? I asked a regular customer who knows him. Turns out he's known for getting involved with various women and quickly breaking up with them. No way! Moreover, I heard it's a common thing for him to cheat with younger women, even when married. And this time, he got involved with his new wife's daughter. Karen was shocked by Susan's revelation and collapsed on the spot. Well, you're not one to talk, right? You abandoned your daughter when she was still in elementary school to elope with a younger man. And after that, you've been swapping men frequently and having fun. That's the truth, as far as I know. Why do you know that? Don't underestimate how well connected I am. It's easy for me to find out such things for a close friend. Karen seemed at a loss for words. As if her mother's tragedy didn't matter, Emily suddenly raised her voice. Wait a minute. Now's not the time for this kind of talk. If I can't get married, I have to go back to Dad's place. I'm calling him right now. Emily said, getting up. Then, Susan handed her cell phone to Emily. It seemed like the moment of revelation was at hand. If you're calling home, it's already connected. Here you go. Seeing my face on the phone screen, Emily realized she had been watched all along. That's so mean. You've been spying on me? Emily said, looking at me with a strained expression. Emily. You kicked me out of the wedding venue, and you talk about being treated harshly? Just put Dad on the phone, will you? He's there, isn't he? Emily was visibly agitated and showed no remorse in her tone. Then, John, who had been silently listening beside me, spoke up. Emily. I'm here, but you have something to say to your mother first. Who cares about that? Dad. Listen to me. My wedding's been called off. Help me, please, Dad. Emily was desperately seeking help, but John calmly responded. Emily. I told you before. It was Linda who saved you when your mother abandoned you. I was trying to raise you alone, but as a father, I wasn't sure how to deal with a girl. At that time, Linda listened to my worries and helped me genuinely. Emily's expression twisted slightly. Perhaps she didn't want to hear such things now. Yet, John added more. No, it wasn't just me. She was genuinely concerned about you too. That's why I decided to remarry Linda. It wasn't just a matter of convenience for adults. Emily looked down, her expression dark. I know that. But still, I felt like she took Dad away from me. I knew it logically, but I just couldn't stand her. Emily's words reminded me of when I first married John. I understood it must have been hard for a teenager to accept her father's remarriage. But now, Emily was an adult. She needed a more pragmatic outlook. Now that her marriage had fallen through, she was seeking her father's help. She probably thought that if anything went wrong, her parents would fix it. But this wouldn't be good for her in the long run. I decided to be firm with Emily. Emily. I'm sorry for coddling you, thinking you were pitiable. But you're an adult now, and you can't keep thinking Dad will always save you when things get tough. I believed I was only stating the obvious as a parent. But Emily's response was unexpected. Shut up. I'm talking to Dad. And what do you mean by pitiable? That makes it sound like I'm some poor, pathetic daughter. Don't get me wrong. I was the one who allowed your marriage to Dad. Emily. John couldn't contain his anger at Emily's selfish attitude. Seeing John's yelling, Emily teared up. Dad, don't be so mad. I'm your only precious daughter, right? Who's more important to you, me or her? Just leave her and let me come home. My marriage is off, and I have nowhere else to go, please. No. You said terrible things to my beloved wife, treating her as non-family. If that's the case, I can't accept you as family anymore either. You need to atone for your affair and learn to live on your own. So, no. Emily replied, her voice trailing off. In the venue, the staff, realizing the wedding was cancelled, had started cleaning up. The relatives were also gradually leaving the scene. Michael was speaking seriously to Emily. Emily, for now, I'll have my lawyer handle the matter of the compensation. All further communications will be through the lawyer, so respond when you're contacted. With that, Michael left the venue with his parents. Susan, who had been sending the video the whole time, stepped away and called from the hallway. Hello. Well, I guess that wraps up this case, doesn't it? Yeah, thanks, Susan. Everything worked out smoothly because of you. Straightforward. You've had a tough time, but I don't think Emily will come back now. From now on, just enjoy your time with your husband. Susan had always been concerned about me. I was filled with gratitude for her kindness. Thank you, Susan. As Susan had predicted, Emily never returned home. Apparently, she moved into Karen's apartment. Karen, after that day, became furious with her husband over his affair with her daughter and decided to divorce. Since that incident, Karen became furious with her husband over his affair with her daughter Emily, leading to a heated argument and ultimately deciding to divorce. Upon arriving at Karen's place, Emily immediately blamed her mother, claiming, "My marriage being called off is your fault." She, for some reason, held her mother responsible for the failed marriage. In response, Karen blamed Emily for her divorce. They argued daily, and their confrontations escalated. They would shout, throw things, and even get into physical altercations. This often continued until late at night, leading to complaints from other apartment residents. Eventually, both mother and daughter were evicted. The reason I know all this is because Susan told me everything. Emily and Karen had to move into a shabby apartment and struggled financially. Karen, intending to demand alimony from her ex-husband, found he had left quickly, changing his number and cutting off all contact. Struggling to make ends meet, Karen apparently tried to find work at various nightclubs, attending numerous job interviews. However, due to her age, she couldn't secure employment anywhere. Susan, having heard this from a friend who owns a bar, decided to hire Karen at her own establishment. Karen is working diligently to support herself, but it seems she often voices her grievances about Emily during her breaks. It appears that the mother-daughter duo will continue their endless cycle of conflicts, no matter what. Karen, having neglected her maternal duties, should at least now take responsibility for Emily. Emily, contacted by the lawyer, paid Michael's compensation, straining her finances even further. No longer able to rely on her father, she finally started working part-time. Emily, who had lived off her parents and played around, would now face the harsh realities of society. As for us, with Emily gone, we thought we'd have a peaceful couple's life. However, with over 20 years of teaching experience, it wasn't that simple. We were invited to former students' weddings, visited them for baby showers, and being high school teachers meant we were always busy. Lately, many former students, now with kids, visited us on weekends. Especially me, being single until my mid-40s, I had been a confidant for many students in both personal and academic matters. Many of my former students visited our home with their families, treating it like a return to their parental home. It's gratifying as a teacher to be so cherished, but there was also this kind of former student. Ms. Smith, actually, my parents got divorced, and now I don't have a family home to show my child their grandparents. Oh dear, that must be tough. Yes. But when I bring my wife and child to visit you, my kid gets so happy. It's as if they think of your place as my family home. Recently, there are not a few students who don't have a family home to return to due to their parents' divorce. Moreover, the children of my students often call me grandma. It seems they really do think of our home as their own family's house. John even teases me by saying, it's like we suddenly have more grandchildren. I don't have children of my own, so it feels a bit embarrassing to be treated like a real grandmother. However, the fact that my students find our home a comfortable and welcoming place is something I take pride in as a teacher. Therefore, our weekends are filled with joy and liveliness, with visits from various students, making life with John all the more enjoyable. Even though Emily is no longer with us, we have many students who rely on us. It's true that people can't always understand each other, even if they are legally family. What's important is the connection between hearts, the bond with those we can trust. We, as a couple, plan to continue cherishing these relationships with those who truly need us.